Shalom, everybody, shalom. So let me open up. We're going to go into the Word. I want to share with you something that jumped out at me. I want to call this evening what am I calling it, Lori? The Rabbi's point of view. That's what I want to call it tonight. So, sometimes the things that we see happening in our society and what's taking place is very concerning. And there are times where I feel like Adonai says, you need to share with the body and share what I'm showing you. And so that's why I felt tonight that we'll look at Scripture, but I really wanted to share. I want to look at the news. I want to let you know some things that are happening. Most people don't realize some of the things that are happening and how close we really are to the Messiah's return. There's a lot that's happening right now. How many are aware of that? Most Americans are not. Most people don't want to hear it. They don't want to know it. They want to live in a little bubble. Don't tell me anything. I'll just be happy and dumb and just don't tell me. But that's not what we're called to be. We're called to be people who know our times and our seasons. So number one, that we can pray. Number two, that we can prepare for others around us and be a blessing to people. So I wanted to share with you some things and some insights. I know there's times in the past where he's shown me some things that I would share with you, and we've seen them happen. We've seen them take place. So we're seeing some things again, and I just want to share with you tonight. And it's an open, we're going to talk about this tonight. It's not anything that you can't talk about. If you have a question, I want you to ask questions tonight. We're going to talk about some things. So having said that, go with me into the book of Tehillim, the book of Psalms. Now, we have covered this psalm in the past, but I want to look at this again. And understand that when we're talking about what we're going to talk about tonight, events that are taking place in the world, understand we're calling it Rabbi's point of view. I want to share with you what I'm seeing and what's going on in my spirit and what the Holy Spirit is telling me about these things. It doesn't necessarily, you take it for what you take it for. But I just want to share with you some things. Go with me to Psalm 27 of David. Now, we've read this before, but I want to read this one thing to you. Adonai is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Yahweh Adonai is the stronghold of my life, or the strength of my life. Whom should I be afraid? When evildoers approached me to eat up my flesh, my adversaries and my foes, they stumbled and fell. How many know that's good news? Doesn't mean that the adversary is not going to come at you. It means that when he does, he's going to stumble and fall. Most people run from that. Though an army camp besieges me, my heart will not fear. Though war breaks out against me, even then will I be confident. One thing have I asked of Adonai, that will I seek, to dwell in the house of Adonai all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of Yahweh, and to what? To inquire in his temple. Now this is what I like. For in the time of trouble, he will hide me. How many want to be hidden? He will hide me. In this translation, it says he'll hide me in his sukkah. Conceal me in the shelter of his tent. Set me high upon a rock, and then will my head be lifted above my enemies around me. And in his tabernacle I will offer sacrifices with shouts of joy. And I will sing, yes, sing praises to Adonai. Think about what I just read. Everything, get the picture in your mind. Everything happening around him, the adversary attacking him, things coming against him. Where is he? Where is he? He's hidden away. And he's rejoicing. So he's not in a place where he's running in fear. Adonai himself has hidden him and tucked him away somewhere. So I believe this is a future picture of the believers. He says, I will sing, yes, I will sing praises to Adonai. He goes on to say, I want to read this one to you. Look at verse 11. Teach me your way, Adonai. Lead me on a level path because of my enemies. Do not turn me over to the desire of my foes. And I love verse 13, and this is where I want to camp kind of on this. Surely I trust that I will see the goodness of Adonai in the land of the living. Wait for Adonai, be strong, let your heart take courage, and wait for Adonai. Look, verse 13. Who else has a different translation? Tina, what do you have? Verse 13.
I am certain that I will see the Lord's goodness in the land of the living.
I am certain There's one translation that kind of makes it sound like he hopes to see. But the translation here is making a statement. He is certain that he will see the goodness of Adonai. Where will he see it? In the land of the living. Is that the land of the dead? It's the living. Turn to your neighbor and say, it's the living. And so I want you to here's my point in this. Everything that was happening around David, all of the distraction and the destruction and the adversary and the arrows flying and the wicked gnashing and trying to bite him, literally trying to bite him and all of these things happening. And he says, I will see the goodness of Adonai in the land of the living. And I think that really spoke to my heart this week to say, of all the tragedies and all the things that we see, where would we be as a people if we didn't believe we would see God's goodness? And here's what we do. We tend to think, well, we'll see it in the sweet by and by. We'll see it when we cross over. We'll see it in heaven. We'll see it after the rapture. We'll see it in the new kingdom. We'll see it, not to be confused with the Jehovah's Witnesses idea of the new kingdom. We'll see it in the millennial kingdom. We know that. But my point is this, we will see the goodness of Adonai in the land of the living. And I think that speaks to us as a people today. That even when we see all the stuff happening, we need to remind ourselves, just like David did, we will see the goodness of Adonai. That's what keeps us going. If you were in a place and you thought, I'm not going to see God's goodness out of any of this, and we're done for, how many know that'd be pretty sad? But yet you always have to come back to that place. I'm going to see the goodness of Adonai. Where? In the land of the living. Just recently had a friend pass away last week. She's one of my closest friends. She's been here with her family several times, sat in the back, Kristen, or in the middle usually. And I've known her. She was one of the original 4. We started our ministry. She was one of the original 4 out of our group. And I've known her for long time, and she passed. I got to see her right before she passed. It's been a hard season. Stepfather passing, friends passing, things happening with people, and you worry about people. And you could get to a point to where you say, are we going to see the goodness of the Lord, of Adonai, of Yahweh in the land of the living? But how many know we will see the goodness? And that's where you have to trust and say, no matter what's around us, we have to trust we're going to see the goodness in the land of the living. We don't give up. We don't lay down and quit. We don't lay down and die. We keep going on. That's the positive aspect of saying, we will see the goodness. If you have trust in Adonai, you will see the goodness. Turn to your neighbor and say, you will see the goodness. Tom, I see your hand. Yes, sir.
Yeah, this was one of the prayers that I was led to pray for the hostages. This very psalm.
Wow, wonderful. So a lot is taking place with that. There's talks, and we'll talk a little bit about that tonight. Before we start this, you'd say, well, I want you to see this as not a gloom and doom. This is not something that I'm trying to make you depressed or scared or anything like that. I'm just sharing facts and letting you know where we are. When Messiah said he's coming back, he gave signs. And what are some of those signs? Wars and rumors of wars. Famines, earthquakes, pestilences, things falling out of the sky. We're seeing it all. We're seeing it all. Increases, floods, famine, everything. The spirit of pharmakia is running rampant. I want to tell you this. If you buy things online, don't buy. I know there are people who try to cut costs and buy things from Canada with their medical. Make sure that you're getting the real deal, because if not, they could cut it with fentanyl. We've known people to die because it was one pill, and they weren't abusing drugs, but it was cut with fentanyl, and they didn't know it, and they died. So you have to use wisdom in this day. One of the big things is the wars and rumors of wars, and Adonai has spoke to me over the last couple months as I think and I ponder and I pray, and he said, wars and rumors of wars, but he didn't stop there. He said, but remember, he said, but the end is not yet. And many people today are saying, well, we're going to get into World War III, which could be a possibility. We're going to see nuclear weapons, and we're going to see things fly, and everybody's going to die. But what did Yeshua say? The end is not yet. So we are in a season of wars and rumors of wars. How many know there's a lot of rumors going on? But the end is not yet. So that was very encouraging for me when the Holy Spirit spoke that to my spirit, to say, oh, okay, because I thought, well, maybe this is it. But the end is not yet. So many things are happening. Let's talk about war tonight. You know, when we talk about war, we've crossed over into a place where both Russia and our government and NATO, people are saying we've crossed back into what's known as the Cold War phase. So when I was a kid, right before I was born, some of you remember this, I used to see these signs on the old buildings, and they were it was a nuclear fallout shelters. Do you guys remember those signs? And we would have them in our schools. And so then you'd see the arrows pointing down the steps. And I thought, what is that all about? Well, they used to have drills, and people would go into these places. And you don't see much of that anymore. Well, now we've entered that Cold War phase again because of some of the things that are happening. War is one of the three horsemen, or one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, along with famine. So we're seeing these things taking place. Let's talk a little bit about this tonight. Let's talk about war. Everybody say war. So I'm just going to go over some of the news things with you, and if you have a question, bring it up. But I want you to know, again, this is not to frighten you or scare you, but I really believe we are very, very close to seeing some things that we have never seen before take place in our country. We're that close. So what do we do with it? And why am I telling you that tonight? Because I want you to just be aware and use wisdom. I know people that are extremely smart oh, that's my phone. My phone is ringing. I'll text him back. I was getting ready to yell at somebody. Whose phone is that? It's my phone. Yeah. So I forget where I was going with all that. Let's talk about NATO. NATO leaders came out the other day and they made a statement. They had made a statement to say that they are doing what's called a practice drill. This is the largest that they've ever done. And NATO is actually warning of war with Russia. NATO, the leaders of NATO are saying that it could be within 2 to 5 years. But there are others that are saying it could be less than that. But they are saying that they said, be prepared that we are going to go to war with Russia. That's not just America. I see your hand. Who's NATO? Does anyone not know who NATO is? Noah, do you know who NATO is? So NATO is a conglomerate of nations. You have 31 nations that after World War II, you had these nations get together, and through the years they've joined forces to say we're not going to allow a world war to happen again. Now, 31 nations plus Denmark just joined, plus Sweden applied. Sweden has not been accepted yet. All of these nations are Europe, Southern Europe, of course America's in there. And you're getting ready to see some fireworks. They are getting ready to hold the largest drill, and 31 countries, I believe, plus the 2 that I had mentioned. It actually kicks off, I believe it's this week, in Virginia, and 90,000 troops. So 90,000 troops from the NATO countries will operate this as if we were in a real war with Russia. Now, it's not going to, hopefully it won't go hot. You know what I mean by hot? A lot of times they'll do a drill and then it turns hot. So hopefully it doesn't turn hot. But this is the largest practice that NATO has ever done in the history of NATO, which is telling me they are expecting some things. Tom and then Karen. Tom?
I saw in the news where Putin has said Alaska belongs to Russia.
Yeah. Yeah, they're talking actually about going back, and there's some talk, what if Russia decides to take Alaska back again? What would we do as a country? It's a great question. Yeah.
Didn't they also make some kind of, there's other countries that are going, it's the same thing as NATO, but it's not NATO, like England and, not England, but some other countries. I can't think of who they are.
Well, you're probably talking about the BRICS nations.
Yes.
Okay, so the BRICS nations has to do with the economy. So you're talking about Brazil, Russia, India, China, and I believe it's Argentina, or is it South Africa?
75
Yeah,
Yeah, so when we talk about BRICS, that has to do with the world economy, which we will talk about tonight. The world, all of this is about money and power. And we've seen this building up over the years, but it came to a head when we saw Russia invade Ukraine. So we're going to look at the war map tonight. So here we have Russia, and Russia decides to invade the Ukraine. How many have been following that? So Russia decides to invade the Ukraine, and we see this take place. So what's the big deal there? What are they going to do? It's been going on. People said it's not going to last that long. It won't get very big. But the United States said, we can't let you do that. A lot of this has to do, some say, with money laundering, where we're seeing billions and billions of dollars go through the Ukraine to nobody really knows where. America is supplying the monies along with some others. So this is actually what kind of kicked it off. Now behind this, you've got other folks as well, and we're going to talk about the little splinters of things. But right now in the world, we see a lot of wars. We see Russia with the Ukraine. Belarus has just brought in nuclear missiles from Russia right along the border there with Poland. Poland is scared right now. So we see that taking place. Europe, all those European countries right there next to Russia, they're frightened, which they should be, because Germany has claimed that they uncovered plans, secret plans, that Russia was not going to stop at the Ukraine, but Russia was going to take other countries as well. Well, America and NATO say you can't do that. We're not going to allow it. But yet we don't want to step in and start a world war, so we're pumping money. NATO is giving weapons and everything else. Putin, by the way, went to a war foothold, and they're producing weapons 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So all of these things are taking place. Questions or comments? We do, but not as much as right now as Russia is. Russia is on a very strong foothold, which will bring us back to why do we want to even get involved with this? Well, number one, it's about power, but number two, it's about money. And when you see war, you see money, and people make a lot of money at wartime. Yes, Steve?
Yeah, there was a evangelist came there, and he was in the military. He's an older guy, and he said that they always watch China. He said, don't worry about Russia, it's China that you have to worry about.
Well, and interesting, because when we talk about this, we're watching not just Russia and Ukraine now, but now we're also watching another country who is friends of Russia, and that's China. And China, right now, is wanting to deal with Taiwan. Lord, where's my mind here? Taiwan. So China and Taiwan. Taiwan is the islands. It's right there off of the Chinese area, the mainland of China. Actually, from what I'm told, Taiwan 400 and something years ago allowed China to come in as guests, they say, and China kind of took it over. China is an independent, they're functioning as a democratic independent nation now, but they're overseen by China. China does not like democracy. China is it's a communist country. They hate democracy, but yet they like the money that comes from things. China wants to overtake and take back Taiwan in the province of Taiwan. Taiwan doesn't want that. So now we have two countries. There's not an open war yet, but it's very interesting when we watch this, because Taiwan, if you understand anything about Asians don't like to lose face. Do you know what I mean by that? They don't like to be shamed. And so here's China, who's demanding, America, you stay out of it. We'll go to war with you if you try to get involved in it. America's saying, don't get involved with Taiwan. And Taiwan is saying, basically, forget China, we're going to do what we want to do. But there's a balance to all this that we have to walk. And Taiwan recently held elections. And China, now they could have very well saved face with China and elected somebody that the Chinese approve of. But they put into power a guy who is he's a democratic thinker. He thinks like Americans do. And boy, did that make the Chinese mad. And so right now, China is mad with Taiwan. This just took place, I I forget how many days ago, it was recently. So these are two hot spots that we need to watch. Russia and China are supporting each other. Russia and China are friends. Russia and China are not our friends, guys, as the United States. Now, they're nice people. I know people from these countries. But as a country, they're not our friends. Yes. He's got the microphone, so we want the people online to be able to hear.
China also took back some territory that Russia had when the Ukraine war started.
Interesting.
So, it's how friendly are they?
It's a great point. Great point. Years ago I had a dream, I'm going to say back, and I had moved in with a rabbi in Florida, and I had not experienced anything like this dream that I had. But many things happened as I lived in Florida, gifts and moves of the Spirit and things. And I had a dream, and it was very, very clear. It was like a movie. Anybody ever have a movie dream? It was like you were there. And in my dream, I saw people coming in at this beach, these ships and these things, and they came in, and they were Asian. The people were, that was the military, and it was Asian. And they came in, and they were invading, and they were killing people and wiping people out. And I remember in the dream, my heart sank, and I felt fear. And then something in me rose up and said, don't fear. And so I told all the people who were running, I said, don't fear, don't be afraid. Let's not be afraid. People kind of settled down, and when we stopped being afraid, they all got in their stuff, and they left. We chased them away. So, but I saw it was as clear as you guys are here to me tonight, and I believe it was a prophetic dream. I personally think that we will see, whether it's the Chinese or whether it's the Koreans, we will see that happen, and I believe I'll see it in my lifetime. I think we'll see it on our shores. Could it be California? Possibility. So I don't know. Questions or comments? I thought I saw somebody's. No. Yes, Leslie?
A while back had a whole thing about Russia and China working together in invading.
Yeah, Glenn Beck will carry some of this. I like Glenn Beck to an extent. Glenn Beck is very informative, but Glenn Beck doesn't get it spiritually. He'll see it, he'll report it, but he'll say, well, why is this happening? And I want to reach through and shake him and say, read your Bible, it'll tell you why. So that's a great point. He's very informative, but he's not very encouraging when you watch that. So there's another little country I want you to take notice of, and that is North Korea. North Korea right now, they are testing, and they are coming against, this is no surprise, but they're coming against South Korea. They want to go to war with South Korea. What's interesting is North Korea has recently tested hypersonic missiles. What's a hypersonic missile? It's a missile that can travel extremely fast. Russia has them. North Korea has developed them, and they actually successfully tested one that they can travel miles and miles. It breaks the speed of sound by how many times, I don't even know. But they're amazing. And here's the scary part. We don't have any. America doesn't have one. And yet, North Korea, a backwards country, has just recently tested their first. China has them. Russia, we know, has them. There are some that say if they decide to hit America, they could hit, missiles would come within 15 minutes. Anywhere in the world they could travel. That's how fast they are. They're hypersonic. They break the speed of sound. It's crazy. And so this is what we're dealing with. North Korea is coming against South Korea. So when you think about this, this axis, I think it was George Bush years ago called it the axis of evil. But it's true. We see these three countries who are, these are communist countries, and these are the countries that have stepped up on the scene, and they are working together. Let's talk about another war that's going on that most of you know about right now, and that is Israel. Can we look at the map of Israel, Lori? So when we look at before we leave, let's go to the Israeli map, but I want you to see with North Korea and South Korea, they're still angry over the war that took place many, many years ago. But Kim Jong-un, we may look at him and shake our heads and laugh, but he's very serious. This guy is crazy enough to detonate something. I wouldn't put it past him. And he works very closely with China. He's like the lapdog to Xi Jinping. So he's crazy enough. He takes the orders from China, and they starve their people. It's not a nice country, but yet he's very serious, and he wants to take down America. And I believe that there may be a point where he tries to do it. So these are the hot spots that are happening right now. Now let's look at Israel. Israel went to war. Most of you know what happened October 7th with Gaza and how these folks came in. The terrorists had come in. And we were thinking, you know, I don't know about you, but when this first happened, I thought it was maybe a few hundred terrorists had crossed through the border. But that wasn't it. It was thousands. It was thousands of terrorists. And here's the sad part, is that most of the survivors said that, you know, the atrocities that took place, that we won't go into detail because we've talked about it. The survivors have said this, that there were regular people there. There were moms and dads. There were children there from Gaza that had come in. See, these were people who worked in those villages, who knew the layout of the village and the codes to the doors. They were friends of the Israelis. They were the workers that the Israelis worked with. They were friends, and yet they turned on them. Went in, punched in the codes, took them through the villages and said, here they are, here they are. Regular people, regular people. So, of course, Israel felt betrayed by that, which anyone would. So we see some things happening. We're going to talk about Israel in a little while. Bones, you had your hand up. He's coming with the mic.
Rabbi, what about Iran?
That's where we're going. So this Israeli war, we won't forget about Iran, but I want you to see something. This war that Israel is experiencing now with Gaza, coming against, what's the name of the terrorist group? Hamas. But now we see another front opening up, so it's Israel versus Hamas. An ancient foe. Hamas was voted in. When people say that Gaza is an occupied territory, it is not. Israel pulled out many years ago and left it to them to govern themselves. And guess who they put into place? Hamas, terrorists. That would be like us putting in terrorists in our political... Well, I think we've done that, haven't we? I think it's happened. I don't know. Anyhow, we won't go there. But I want you to see that they've come against Gaza. Gaza's fighting them. We're seeing this happen. There was a large loss of life. I believe it was early this morning, yesterday. 22? 21. So we see that this has happened. It's just a mess. But now there are other fronts that are opening up. So now we see a front that's opening up on the northern part of Israel. They've displaced 90,000 Israelis from the north, and they have to find a place for all these people to live. It's not, I mean, think about that. You're talking 100,000 people with no place to go. So guess where they put them?
In the schools
In the hotels.
and schools.
And the schools. I've heard the hotels. So you have to put families in places. So all of this is disrupting, number one, the tourism of Israel, but everything else involved. And remember, Israel gets its goods shipped in. A lot of the goods are shipped in. So that's going to hinder the shipments of the goods. I want you to look at a map tonight. Now there's a new front that's opening up on the north, and that has to do with a group called Hezbollah. Hezbollah. Anybody ever hear of that group? Wave at me if you've ever heard of that. Hezbollah. So in their language it's Hezbollah. Whose name do you hear in that? Baal. Interesting that name just keeps popping up all the time throughout history, doesn't it? Baal worshipers, violence, war, killings, and murders. So Hezbollah is now fighting, they are fighting against Israel now, and that front is opening up. So they're talking about several fronts in Israel that are opening up, which is adding to the hotspot of the world scene. All of these things are taking place at once. That's why many people are saying it could very well lead to World War III. We could be getting into World War III, where you have others that say we're already in World War III. It's just a matter of time before we actively participate in it. Now, we're going to get to a certain point, I see, because we are doing some things right now against a group that's attacking some of our bases. So now they've kicked it up against America. Tom, you had your hand up.
There's actually a third front.
Yes,
And
sir.
that's Judea and Samaria, where 85% of the 2 million Arabs in those two areas favor Hamas. And they support them wholeheartedly.
Wow. Does our country support Hamas?
Yes.
How many would say yes?
Absolutely.
Wave at me. It's interesting because as we're seeing, there's a lot of folks that are standing and supporting Hamas and all of these organizations, the pro-Palestinian flags, and they're waving these, and you see them. That's a spirit, guys. That's a spirit that's at work in our society today. All of this, I want to take you back to, all of this has to do with spiritual things. These are not just men and their ideas. This all has to do with spirit stuff. We're going to come back to this map, Lori, but I'm going to show you a little video. You familiar with Davos? How about the World Economic Forum? What takes place at the World Economic Forum? Every year, the elite, all of the monkey monks, the big wigs, they all get together, the people that have lots and lots of money. They get together and they meet and they say, what can we do to help the world? What can we do to help the world? I read today, I think it was Bill Gates, he makes in a matter of 7 minutes more than what one person makes in a lifetime. Was it 14 or 7 minutes? I just heard that today. Millions in 7 minutes, more than what you or I would make in a lifetime. So these people think on a different level than you and I ever will. They don't have to worry about things like this. They don't think like we do. And they consider themselves the elite. And so they meet together and they say, and they plan their crazy plans. And by the way, you know their plans are crazy. Big into the planning system is this, the ecosystem. There's something called the 2030 Initiative. And most of you might realize, you may not even know it, but if you pull out your phone, there will be an app that they try to put on people's phones. It's a little circle, and it looks like it has all these little slices of different colored pies. Have you all seen that? How many have ever had that on your phones? They are putting it on people's phones because they want everybody to get compliant with this by 2030, that we're going to cut the carbon footprint down to 0. And the companies, if you're a company and you own a company, you better be on board with us or you won't receive any of our funding or support. So you have to join this thought process too. And really when you look back at it, it's all about the spirit of Gaia. Anybody know who Gaia is? Okay, how about if I told you Mother Nature? How many have ever heard of Mother Nature? There really is a religion that worships the Gaia spirit. They say that the earth has a spirit and it's a female spirit, and they call it Mother Earth. And so they say we have to honor Mother Earth. How many know that's not scriptural? These people take it seriously enough to say we need to reduce the carbon footprint. How do you reduce the carbon footprint? You take people off the earth. Get rid of them. We are carbon life forms. Get rid of the life forms. Now, if he's making how many millions and you and I are making what we make, they're looking at us to say, should you even be here? Right? They see people like us as irrelevant. So, questions or comments on that? I want to show you a video. Let me show you a video of what took place at Davos. Lori, Amy, can we show them the video? This actually took place at the World Economic Forum. Watch this. And turn up the volume if you would.
No Camaru, Anuri, no Camai, no Camwaka, na Anuri, no Yuyua, na Wahon, Shinavu, Punk, and Tushina Shavawaki, Shinamu Kikirani,
Can you stop it for just a minute? So I want you I want them to still see the rest of it, but I want you to know who this is. This is a shaman. This is what we would call a witch, they brought her in from South America, and I believe it's the jungles of Brazil. They want her blessing, so they brought her in, and she's actually praying to the deities, and I want you to pay close attention to what she does. Now understand this, these are the people who are the elite leaders of the world, and they've invited a witch in to bless them. How many know that's not good? So watch what she does. Go ahead. Did we lose it? Okay. What is she doing here? She's praying. She's calling on the false gods. North, south, east, and west. Now watch what she does. She goes over to the leaders. No? She's coughing. They said she's coughing on them. Right. Okay, you can turn it off now. You can find that online. What is she doing? When I heard this and then I saw it, I realized exactly what she's doing. This is a copy of what Yeshua did with his disciples when he breathed on them and they received the Holy Spirit. Well, witches understand power and spirit too. And what she's doing is, and she is actually practicing incantations, and she's breathing on them so that they can receive that spirit that's in her. Now, if you're praying for somebody, there's been times where, and I've been praying, I've had it happen. I have the spirit of Yeshua in me. I know that. And there'll be times he'll say, lay hands on somebody. There's times where he said, breathe on them. Breathe on them. Well, I understand. If a believer does that, that's the Ruach HaKodesh. She's not a believer in Yeshua, guys. So what is she doing? There's a transference of the spirit that's in her to those people. And these are world leaders. And if you watch, they actually lean in and want it. They lean in and want it. So people would say, even the Sikh that was there, these are world leaders and bankers. Well, why are they wanting this? That's what Lori said. She said, well, why did that guy lean in? It's the same spirit. And so there's a transference of spirits. This is all about spirits and spiritual things. And I said, well, people would say, well, that's just a bunch of hooey. No, these people believe it. And I can tell you this. When was the last time that you saw a Christian or a Messianic Jew or even a rabbi asked to be given the blessing over the world leaders? You'll never see that, will you? No. But they'll ask the witches to come in and bring it about. The world has an agenda. The world leaders have an agenda. You and I know where this is going. And we are living in a day and age where we're seeing this. We would never guess that we would, these are the leaders that we're seeing receiving this spirit. It'll be interesting to see what takes place out of all this. Questions? Yes, sir. Steve? And then Amy, who else? Was it you, Amy? Yep, Steve and then Amy and anybody else.
Basically what she did is curse them.
Yeah.
Curse them.
Right.
And it's going to fall apart.
Right. Well, it could fall apart, or it could actually bring about what they're trying to bring about. Amy?
Right here in Richland County on Facebook, Richland Source posted an article about Likewise Academy and how they're trying to teach Christian values to develop character. And all the comments were hateful, ugly comments towards Christians.
Interesting.
That attitude isn't exempt from this area.
Right. So we even see that area, and it's growing. That antichrist spirit, if I can say it like that, we're Messianic Jews, would be anti-Messiah. But the anti-Messiah, antichrist spirit is growing. And that spirit is very active within communities and within the world today. Don't be surprised when you see it. You and I are called to stand up against that. So, yes. Yes, sir.
I did see that. And also, last week, President Trump, he made some kind of a speech. At the end of it, he said, I can't wait to put my hand on the Bible. And then he actually prayed.
Okay.
He prayed.
Yeah. Okay. This brings us to politics, which we'll hit on. We have about 10 more minutes. And there's some things that I really want to share with you, what I think we need to be doing within the next 2 months. Yes.
On the politics side, do I remember correctly or not, didn't Rabbi Schneider pray over Trump?
Yeah, Rabbi Schneider was actually a part of, he laid hands on him and prayed for him. He was actually asked, he's a friend of mine, and I talked with him, and we were sharing one time about him. He was invited to be on his personal spiritual council board, and he said he turned it down. He said he just didn't feel in his spirit that he should do that. He said there was something there was a check, and so he didn't do it. So, okay. Let me share this, guys, with you, that I know that people like Trump. Trump's policies seem to make sense. But how many think Trump's going to get back in? Good old Trump. Think he's going to get back in? How many say you don't think he's going to get back in? They're doing everything they can to not allow him back in. Now, if you look at it at the narrative, you know where I stand because I don't believe in politicians. Let's not forget some of the policies were good, but there were also some things that he created that were not good. Let's not forget that. They're talking about, they actually came out and said the other day that if he gets in, their agenda's done. So if it truly is an agenda of this agenda versus that agenda, they are not going to allow that man into office, no matter what it takes. Now, I want you to see that's scary because if for the most part, if people are expecting him to be in, and then somebody does something stupid, or you know what I'm saying, it's not good. If there's something that happens, I can tell you this, it will produce chaos in the streets of America. People will be highly upset. And so you're going to see, you think it's bad now, you're going to see chaos erupt. So, yeah, and I think that's what they want. I think that's what people want. They want to bring chaos because it's that old expression, out of chaos, you can, it's the old, if you study the ancient religions, you bring order out of chaos. So, but before that, if you want to bring order, you have to bring everything to a point of chaos, to where it literally burns down. It's like the phoenix that burns down and then rises out of the ashes. Well, how do you get a new world order out of the ashes? And so that, to me, is the whole agenda of this thing, is to produce so much chaos that when it's all said and done, now you can implement your ideology into it, including the banking system. Are you familiar with the CBD, what are they called, Amy? CBDC. It's the digital dollar. And so the digital currency they're really pushing for this. That's the whole end game, is to bring about a digital dollar to save the dollar, so to speak. Because the dollar right now I know that things look good. The stock market, everybody's saying, yes, it's never been this high before. It's great, 38,000, whatever. Listen, it's a shell show. And things are being moved around. And there's a lot of experts right now that are warning and saying this thing, the bubble's getting ready to burst on everything. And it's going to be bad. So what do? You go to war. If you can go to war, then you can postpone that or bring it down and start over again. And that is why I believe they want war so badly. And they don't care about people like you or like me. They don't care what happens. Just bring about the war, and then you can bring about out of that what we need to plan. Personally, I believe at some point it's going to be so bad. Now, I'm not saying this in the near future, but I think that's how the anti-Messiah is going to step up on the scene. It'll be so bad that a man will rise up and he'll bring peace. People will be so tired of the chaos, they'll say, well, yes, that's the one. That's the one, bring him. And you say, well, America would never go for it. America will go for it. All the nations of the world will go for it, if they're not believers. But the believers, I believe it's the Jew and the believer that's going to fight that system. But even Israel as a nation will fall for it. As a nation, doesn't mean everybody in Israel is going to fall for it, but as a nation, they'll go along with it too. And I know we don't like to see that, but it's coming, guys. Will we see it in our lifetime? I personally believe we will see that in our lifetime. But I believe, like Bones and I always say, there's a bus that's leaving, and I'm on that bus, brother. and so our hope is in Yeshua. Amen. When we talk about economics, let's talk just quickly here, and this is the point I want you to start seeing some things. If you look at the map, I think it's here. I don't know if that's the one, but if you'll look, you have the Red Sea. And then you see, that wasn't the one, Lori, that I wanted to see. There's another map, but there's the Red Sea. And there's a lot of goods. There's a lot of goods that come through the Red Sea. There it is. So you see the Gulf area, and then it comes through that Mediterranean area. There's the Red Sea there. it comes on through and up into Israel. There's a lot of action taking place right now with a little group out of Yemen called the Houthis. How many are familiar with the Houthis? And the Houthis are like these little gnats, these little flies that America's going to get out of the way. But the Houthis are serious about sending missiles. They're shooting at American targets, and they're causing a lot of havoc, which is slowing down the transport system. So Israel is going to suffer from it, but watch this. Now there's a lot of goods. I can't name the number of goods, but the world goods travel through this, including oil. So what does that do? When the Houthis attack, every time the Houthis attack, you're going to see gas prices and oil prices go zoop, 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 zoop. And you'll say, why did gas rise yesterday 30 cents a gallon? Anybody notice that? Did you see what's happening at the situation with the Houthis? So the Houthis are shooting at the ships that are carrying things, and America is saying, knock it off. So America is now firing back with other countries. And there is a battle going on, but the Houthis aren't giving up. So they're doing this with America and with our allies. And here's my point that I want you to see before I take another question. It's also affecting us. We say, well, that's going to affect Israel, or that'll affect Germany or Europe. Guys, it's affecting us right now. And I've heard people say, I've heard recently people are saying now that our shipping goods, there's a delay. There was it started out as a 2-week delay. And I think right now most goods are being at a 2-week delay. What do I mean by goods? Products that we buy, the things that we buy. If you want to go into Lowe's and buy a stove, you know, most of the time you can't just buy a stove. It's not like they have one in the back. They have to order those stoves from the warehouse. Those things travel. And there are things, how many of you buy from Amazon? You shop online? Anybody shop online? Guess what? That stuff travels by a ship. It comes from different countries. And so one of those places is this area. A guy said today, he said, people don't realize this, but he said, it's going to get so bad. He said, right now it's worse than COVID. The shipping lines are worse than COVID. And watch this. He said, people don't realize it, but it's going to get so bad that instead of 2 weeks, he said, it's coming down to 6 months wait for things that you buy. You want to buy a refrigerator? 6 months. So what is that going to do to the world economy? Again, it comes back to money. So all of this ties in. Everything ties in. The wars, the rumors of wars, the economy, all of this is tying in together. And it's like it has a fuse. And it's just going to, it's a tinderbox waiting to happen. So before we leave, we'll take a couple questions. And I have some advice as to what I think we should be doing as the people of Messiah, and how to prepare personally and prepare for the people around us as well. Somebody had Tom, and then Jimmy. Tom first.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yemen's been engaged in a civil war for some time.
Yes.
And the Houthis is one side of that.
Yes.
Now they're getting support from several nations up north, one of which starts with an I.
So now, what Bones had mentioned, Iran is now involved, and Iran is backing Hezbollah. Iran is backing all the terrorists, including the Houthis. And so guess what Israel's doing? Israel is now attacking the Iranian bases. 2 days ago, was it? Several days ago, they took out 5 top leaders in the Iranian army, in the Iranian military. So Israel is not playing. Israel's saying, we're not going back. Things are different. We're not going to go back, and we're not going to let Iran attack us through these proxy groups. So now we've got another group on the scene. All of this is tied in. Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. Iran is making an alliance with South Africa.
Yes, I saw that.
That just ruins the shipping lane even to go around that way.
And South Africa, by the way, has made a statement that Israel is on their naughty list because Israel is going in, and according to them, Israel's committing genocide. So South Africa is making an official statement to say that we are against Israel now, which is unheard of. This is crazy stuff. All of these things are coming together to produce something that you and I have never seen the likes of. We've never seen anything like this. What's going to happen? Tina?
I had a friend of ours that just came back from active duty, and he was talking about how the military is lacking in soldiers and so forth, and he was just talking about a draft, because he knows my husband and our boys, so he was talking about our boys and stuff, and he's like, it's getting pretty serious, but which way it goes, I don't know. And then I saw on the news yesterday, too, that they were saying that it was an all-time low for recruitment.
It is, it's true. There's an all-time low for recruitment in the armed forces in America. I don't know that we've ever been this low. And it's interesting because what would cause that? What would cause that? Thank you. What are we as a nation now proclaiming? Diversity, especially within the armed forces. And people don't want to support that. They said, I don't want to support that. I know personally I don't want to support that. So there are others that say, we don't want to get into a fight and the guy beside me who's supposed to be supporting me is wearing a dress and lipstick. So, and who would have ever dreamed of that? You know, so these are things that I believe personally are causing that to happen. People just don't want to support it. Mary?
They had 18,000 drop out of the military because of the forced injections.
Right. And people didn't want to do that, which I don't blame them. So we have to be careful. YouTube watches for those little things. And we had a couple of our videos removed, Revelation 1 and Revelation 2 or 3.
They're deleting comments in here as we speak.
Did you see that? They're deleting comments even as we speak. Yeah, be very careful. They don't like things like this. I know personally, I think Adonai's telling me we need to make sure we have another channel as well, because if they try to cancel this one. Rumble. Yeah, Rumble. Maybe want to get on there too, but you know, YouTube is very informative, and I like YouTube, but I don't like everything on YouTube. So that leaves me. There was a lot here that I didn't get covered tonight, but my whole point in telling you these things is that there is a hope. The hope is Yeshua. How many know He is our hope? And I think it's important to stay and watch, stay alert, watch and see these things that are happening. Number one thing we can do as a people is pray. Turn to your neighbor and say, pray. So you may wake up at you may wake up at 3:20 in the morning and say, what am I doing up? And the Spirit is telling you, go and pray. But I'm so comfortable. Get up, go and pray. I don't know what to pray for. Pray for your community. Pray for your nation. Pray for pray for Adonai Yeshua's mercies on our nation. Because how many know we need His mercy? Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for Israel. Pray for our leaders. Even Rav Shaul said, pray for your leaders. You know, we're not called to hate our leaders. We're called to pray for them. So as messed up as some of them are, how many know we need to pray? So pray for your leaders. Pray for these things. So if you can fast, if you can pray, I would say pray. Be watchful. And don't be drunk in the world. Do you know what I mean by that? Don't be drunk in the world. Don't be so much into the world and so much into stuff that we're not listening to see what the Spirit is saying. I would encourage you this as we close. I will encourage you this. If you need something now, and I know I've said it before, but I'm telling you now, if you need something and you have the money to buy it now. I would encourage you, if you need new tires, buy them now. If you need a new stove or a new refrigerator, buy it now. And if you can get out of debt, get out of debt. But if you can't, do what you can do. But I'm telling you, make sure that you're getting your stuff that you need now. You might want to store up a little on some extra water, store up a little on some extra food. And you know what I always tell you, make sure you have your gas tanks full. Because if something were to break out and take place and you are down to a quarter of a tank, that's not going to help you much, is it? What would we do as a community if everything just went psh? No, I mean, what would we do at SAR? Would that be the last of us? And we say, well, we'll see you guys, you're on your own. We would connect, and I would encourage you, if you can, come to the house of Adonai. Come to the house of Adonai. Even if we lose all communications, and it very well could be what we call an EMP to take place. Well, what if that happens and we lose all of that? Then you wouldn't have any phones or any. How would you get around? Well, I would hope if you can make it to SAR for a Shabbat, come and we will, pray. We as a community of believers need to continue to pray together and not be afraid. Don't be afraid. Turn to your neighbor and say, no fear. Fear will shut off your blessing. Fear will be what stops the Ruach HaKodesh in your life. So don't be afraid. If you feel the fear, then what should you do? Read your scriptures and pray. Maybe worship. maybe worship. So no fear, guys. Put him first. No fear. A couple hands. Leslie and Carol. Yes.
That's why we need our Shalom kibbutz.
Well, I'm not against that at all. That'd be great.
Also, along with praying and that, we all have unsaved people. And even if we're out in the public sector, there's people that don't know him. And I think that's why we pray for, more time, so that we can evangelize.
And I think people, there are some people who are hungry. You just don't know who they are yet. I think the world right now, most people, as Amy said, most people, they don't even like people of faith anymore. They want to do their own thing. And so America right now has a hard heart, I think, as a country. We have a hard heart as a country. So there will be some things that will come that I believe will soften the heart of Americans. I think we're going to see it, but no fear. Yep.
I believe Adonai's got Russia and China's number. God has it.
Ultimately, we know that it says that he will take those from the north, which I believe will be Russia and possibly Turkey and the nations, and bring them down to fight Israel. And you know what happens, don't you? What does he say happens? What does Scripture say happen? Gog and Magog, and they are defeated. Right? He has a hook, and he brings them down. Could that very well be what we see in this next year? I don't know, but it could be a possibility. So here's what I would say is you stay alert and be alert, and don't be discouraged or afraid. Anybody else? And then we're going to go home. Did you all learn anything tonight? Just trying to get you up to date, because I know it's in the past, some of our most popular Tuesday evenings, we've had a lot of people come out. I want you to know what's happening. And here's your homework. Go home and read Jeremiah 50 and 51. Jeremiah 50 and 51. And when we talk about, there's a strong possibility in my mind and heart, America could be the Babylon that Revelation speaks of. I won't go into details, but I think it could be. So, yeah, Jeremiah 50 and 51. We're a nation that I think we're going to see some things happen, but we need to be ready. Father, help us to be a people who are ready. Help us to be a people who are strong. Give us much grace and mercy. We can't do it without you, Father. And so we ask for your Ruach. Help us. Have mercy upon us. In the mighty name of Yeshua HaMashiach. Your word says that the righteous are as bold as a lion. So, Father, make us bold. Those that are watching online, make them bold in Yeshua HaMashiach. Not by might or power, but by your Spirit. All his people said amen. Shalom. Y'all are dismissed.
First bus.
Good. I'll see y'all.
Gog and Magog, he's going to take care of Russia and China. And then Yeshua was coming.
You think it's that order?